Conflito de defesa Filipinas-China, o que foi dito? Gilberto Teodoro Jr contesta as alegações de oficiais chineses sobre o Mar das Filipinas Ocidentais.
Recently, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the Russian-Ukraine war is a proxy war between nuclear powers and needs to be ended. And meanwhile, the United States is selling more arms to this region and setting up more military bases in the Philippines. So, if the proxy war in Europe needs to be ended, are you concerned that a proxy war in Asia might be launched? Thank you.
And also from China, Da Pengqi.
Thank you, moderator. First, is a very brief comment. Actually, I really appreciate the viewpoint made by Deputy Prime Minister from Thailand. He said we should push forward cooperation and unity, not the division. So it is inappropriate for the minister from Lithuania to attach a label on China, and it's clear a rhetoric for division here in Asia. And my question is for the Philippine Secretary of Defense. As we know, both Vietnam and Malaysia have differences with China in South China Sea. Yet, both countries have effectively managed these differences with China. So my question is, why can't the Philippines do the same? And yesterday, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar mentioned he advised your president to engage dialogue and communication with China. So will the Philippines follow his advice and change its current approach to the South China Sea issue? Or does the Philippines intend to act as a proxy for external powers, continue to serve as a shadow in the shadow play, as described by Singapore former Defense Minister An Yong-hun at this year's Munich Security Conference? Thank you.
And from
Let me address the questions by group. First, on ASEAN 2026, I'm not at liberty, unfortunately, to disclose the theme of ASEAN 2026. That will be the province of our Secretary of Foreign Affairs and the President of the Philippines. But it will follow, definitely, with logic, Malaysia's theme of inclusivity. I believe ASEAN members take special pains to have a follow-on for sustainability and continuity of themes set by leaderships of the current country's hosts for the following hosts. The other question would be the ASEAN solution to the South China Sea. I think I won't go that far. But what I can say is that ASEAN should not allow other parties to define what ASEAN centrality means, and not to use ASEAN's perceived action or inaction as a wedge to drive divisions amongst us. And we also had a consensus that we are evolving common positions. And the mere fact that we have members in ASEAN with overlapping claims, but we deal with each other in a cooperative and peaceful manner shows one thing. Because of our behavior, we trust each other not to take unfair advantage of the situation. And this is the spirit that must continue in ASEAN. Next would be if the Squad is open to admitting more members. I believe that as the Squad matures and gains momentum because of the synergy and the purpose against shared threats, threat and threat actor, a lot of people who may perceive that they are or may be victimized by the aggressive behavior of that threat actor will want to join. And then we cross the bridge when we get there. On defense cooperation with Europe, certainly, because knowledge knows no boundaries, technology knows no boundaries. And as I said earlier, we know the challenges, the threats facing us. We know who are the actors behind it. And the smaller states have an interest to cooperate, to preserve our territorial integrity and sovereignty. And this is the spirit of multilateralism. It should know no borders. However, there should be a common understanding that we fight for the UN Charter and UNCLOS. Now, to our Chinese interlocutors, I shall address you collectively. And thank you for the propaganda spills disguised as questions. First, the comparison between the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Let us not forget that while we are members of ASEAN, we are sovereign countries, each with its own territorial integrity and sovereignty. And I am sure that if what China is doing to the Philippines is done to Malaysia or to any ASEAN country, you would see a different reaction. And certainly as an ASEAN brother, the Philippines will stand up with that ASEAN brother in time of need, in support and in defense of what is international law and UNCLOS. As members of UNCLOS, we are all committed to support it. On the dialogue with China, unfortunately, in my personal opinion, the fact that the question was asked in the way it does, it engenders a deficit of trust in China's words vis-a-vis its actions. I just look back to 1995 on a place called Mischief Reef. There were few bamboo structures erected there, and China said that these were temporary havens or fisherfolk. Now you have an artificial military island, heavily militarized. China says that it has peaceful intentions. Why does it continue to deny the Philippines its rightful provenance under international law and UNCLOS? And as proof of this, we do not stand alone. No country in the world supports the 9-dash line claim of China, or the idea that waters within this 9-dash line are internal waters of China. Several countries in the world, no less than 50, have joined the Philippines in condemning China's behavior in the South China Sea. None have agreed with China, and none has condemned the Philippines for standing up against China in the face of a threat to its territorial integrity and sovereignty, for which I thank the members in this chamber right now for your support. And thus, for dialogue to be effective, it must be coupled with trust. And China has a lot of trust building to do to be an effective negotiating partner in dispute settlement. We have to call a spade a spade. And that's what we see, and that is the biggest stumbling block to dispute resolution or dialogue with China. That deficit of trust, which I think any rational person or any person that is not ideologically biased with freedom of thought and freedom of speech will agree with me. And lastly, external policy sometimes is a mirror of internal conditions, and vice versa. I, for one, cannot trust a country which imposes, represses its own people. I hope I have answered the propaganda to the satisfaction of everyone in this room.